Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to do a Q&A about some questions that are asked a lot on my videos and also some questions people ask on Instagram. So the first question is, what do you need to become part of the JET program? And as you might know, I did the JET program in 2018 to 2019 for 1 year, and I was in Tsushima. And to become part of the JET program, it really depends on your country. So I don't really know. I think you should check online if you're interested in the JET program. I know for the US, the requirements are that you have to have a degree, like an undergrad degree, and you have to be a native speaker of English. There are other countries that participate though too, and I don't know about those countries, but there's a lot of information online. So if you're interested in the JET program, look it up. But as for the application process, at least for me, it was in October, and I think it's like around October every year is the application time. And for the application, it's kind of like a college application. There's a lot involved. So you have to get letters of recommendation and write an essay. And then if you get through the application process and you get called back, you can do an interview in the city that you applied to. So mine was, I applied through San Francisco through the consulate there, and then the interview was in San Francisco. The process for applying to the JET program takes a really long time. So if you're interested, make sure you're ready for doing a long application process, and you probably need a backup plan just in case it doesn't work out. Okay, the second question is, do I have another YouTube channel? Yes, I do. So I just started a second YouTube channel where I'm going to be posting relaxing recipe videos, kind of like ASMR. I got inspired by some home cafe videos I was watching on YouTube, and I wanted to try it out. And it's something that's easy to do while I'm stuck at home. So yeah, if you're interested in following me on that channel, then check out the link in the description. The next question is, what books do you recommend to study kanji? And as for books for studying kanji, did you see my recent video of my Japanese study routine? Because I did mention a little bit about books in that video, so I recommend that. And the main book that I used was the JLPT study book. It's called Shinkansen Master, and they have a kanji book. For me, the best way to study kanji is using Wanikani. It's this website that helps you study kanji a little bit at a time and then grow your knowledge over time, and you also learn the meaning of the radicals for the kanji, and I think it really helps to learn that way. You just have to be consistent, and that's a really great way to make progress in learning kanji. Oh, and for reading material for improving your kanji reading, I mentioned there's an app that I like using. I mentioned it in the Japanese study routine video. So reading NHK Easy News is a fun way to practice reading if you have a lower reading level like I do. And it's helpful because it has the dictionary built in for that. I believe the app is called Todai. Yeah, that app is really helpful. And then someone asked about my favorite books. And actually, I don't read that often. I didn't read for a long time until last year, I guess. 2020, I read a few books. So maybe I'll show on the screen. Here are some books that I read in 2020. And I think some of my favorites were, there's this one called The Family Upstairs. And it's a really random book. Tomo, my boyfriend, he bought it at the airport in London last year when we were coming back, and he just like read it, the whole thing. I think he read the whole thing on the airplane, and then he said that I should read it, and then I read it, and I really liked that book. It's really suspenseful. I really like books that you don't know what's gonna happen, and there's a lot of questions. You want to like solve the mystery. Yeah, so I recommend that one. For more of like a professional book, I recommend this book called Sprint, and it's about a design sprint and how to like do a 1-week Google Ventures design sprint, which is what they use at Google Ventures to make these startups. It's a good way, like if you have a business idea, it's a really quick way to test that idea and make iterations and improvements along the way. That one was really interesting. And then right now I'm reading this book called Pachinko, and it's about Japan and Korea. It takes place from like 1910 to 1989. It's like around World War II times, and I think it's a really interesting look into that time period and like being a Korean immigrant in Japan during that time. So yeah, I'm liking that book too, and I recommend that one. Yeah, let me know if you have more book recommendations. I haven't been making time to read, but I really like reading. The next question is from my friend Nicole, and she says, how did you get into UX design? And UX design is user experience design, and that's what I've been studying and doing as like a profession for this year. So it's kind of like designing apps and websites. So I did a boot camp for UX design really recently in June. Yeah, June is not that recent, but it seems pretty recent. Yeah, so to give more background on my career, I started out as a software engineer, and I worked for 2 years as a software engineer. And I wanted more life experience, which is why I left my job to go teach English in Japan, which you probably saw my videos about that. And then when I came back from Japan, I was like figuring out my career, what I wanted to do next. And I decided that I wanted to do design instead of engineering. I think for me, it's more interesting and a little bit more creative. It's been a fun process learning more about design and doing a lot of projects, designing apps and websites. And more recently, I've been doing some freelance projects in design and exploring different career opportunities there. Yeah, so that's how I got into design. Okay, this question is, have you or would you ever try fugu, the poisonous Japanese puffer fish? Okay, so I haven't tried it, and I don't think I really want to try it. Yeah, I've heard, well, I watched this video from Simon and Martina about trying fugu, the puffer fish, and I think, yeah, it's safe to eat because the chefs that make it are very specialized and they know what they're doing. But like the thing with the puffer fish is that if you cut it the wrong way, then it's really poisonous. For me, I'd rather avoid it. I don't think that the taste would be worth it, but I also think it's really safe to eat in Japan because I'll trust that the chef knows what they're doing. I just would rather not. Yeah, but if you want to know more about that, maybe check out Simon and Martino's video about fugu. Okay, I just changed my camera battery. The next question is, should I visit Tsushima? Okay, so Tsushima is the island in Japan that I lived on for a year teaching English, and it's a really beautiful island, but it's really far from any popular places in Japan. It's like hard to get to, especially if you're traveling from another country. it'll take a really long time to get to Tsushima. So I think if it's your first time in Japan, I don't know if I recommend going to Tsushima just because it would take so long to get there and get back. Yeah, but if you go to Tsushima, I think the summer is the best time to visit because the beaches there are really nice. And if you're like living in Korea, then yeah, I recommend visiting Tsushima for the weekend or something, 3-day weekend. That's a really popular thing to do. And from Japan, maybe if you live in like Fukuoka, then it's not that far, so you could also visit for the weekend. But other than that, I think if you want to see like countryside of Japan, there's a lot of places that are like closer to Tokyo or Osaka, or places where there's like an international airport. So those would probably be better places to go. And you should rent a car if you go there. There are like tourists that just rent bicycles, so that might work if you're staying in like a small area. But the island is really long, so if you want to see all of it, you probably need a car. And if you're going just because of Ghost of Tsushima, you might be disappointed. But I do recommend visiting the countryside of Japan in general. And yeah, there are probably places closer to major cities that are easier to get to that you could visit. Okay, the next question is related to my rural Japanese apartment tour video. That apartment costed like $199 a month. And the question is, how do I find a really cheap apartment in Japan to retire and live forever? Why is it so cheap? Well, I think the place I was living was so cheap because it was old and it's teachers' housing, so it's probably subsidized. And it's in the middle of nowhere. You definitely need a car to get there. So I also had the cost of I was renting a car by the month. And on the island of Tsushima, there is not like the conveniences of like city life. So there's not a shopping mall. There's not a movie theater. There's not a train station, so it's different from a lot of places in Japan, and it might feel isolating at times because there aren't like a lot of the things that you might be used to, depending on where you're coming from. But there is nature. There's always like trees and deer. Yeah, so I don't think $200 apartment is common in Japan, but you might be able to find something if it's really old and kind of moldy. Maybe. The last question is also about my apartment tour. So they asked, why is there a cat mask near your door? So in that video, I had near the entry area to my apartment, I had some things by the door that I usually use when I go out, and one of them was a cat mask. And that is from, I went to this Yamaneko festival in Tsushima. So the Yamaneko is the cat that's famous in Tsushima, and they had a festival for the cat, and then you could like paint your own mask with the Yamaneko on the mask. I think it was probably for kids, but I had a lot of fun painting the mask, and yeah, I just kept it by the door for not really any reason. I just like looking at it sometimes, and maybe if I ever need a disguise when I'm going out. Thanks so much for watching, and let me know if you have video recommendations of what kind of videos you want to see. I think I made like a community post around the beginning of the year, and I got like one response. So if anyone else has any ideas of videos they want to see, then let me know. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Remember to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and I will see you next time.